Hello, everybody. I am Daxon Islander, and I am joined today by the very much missed Lillylivers to discuss, perhaps debate, politics and Republicans' war on women and whatever else she wants to talk about. How you doing?
Um, I'm okay.
All right. So, when we were talking in the chat earlier, you said you want to discuss topics like the war on women and birth control. So, what's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is pretty sound. I do not believe that employers should be forced to shell out money for birth control to automatically cover it in a woman's paycheck if they're not going to use it. What? Because I will explain. I am one of these people that's on it for medical reasons. Um, and I'll go into detail just so you have an idea. I would get cramps so severe they would reach the soles of my feet and I couldn't walk. I had to be admitted to the emergency room. They told me they literally could not do anything and it was just my period. And for a while, everybody thought I was faking it because I'm like this 14, 15-year-old girl. I obviously, I want attention. Um, it wasn't until I went to the doctor, I was prescribed birth control. All the cramps went away within the first month. And I was actually able to live a normal life. I mean, I had to take a pill every day, but I wasn't in pain anymore. I was doing a lot better off, and I had become a productive member of society because of the pill. And I'm not the only person out there who's like that. There are several people out there that are like me that have specific conditions or they have issues where they need to be on it. And I think a lot of the problem is that it's marketed as birth control, when actually the vast majority of women that I personally know do not take birth control for birth control because they use condoms for that. They use other means that they feel are more cost effective and help with the problems of also lessening the spread of STDs, which is responsible. Um, so a lot of women that are on birth control actually need it for medical reasons because a lot of the people that need contraception just go to condoms because they're cheaper anyway. If we didn't need to spend $30 on medication per month, which is what I spend, that's not what other people spend. It all depends on their insurance and their coverage. And there are some people that spend a lot more than I do um, with
1,000,
the insurance.
$3,000 a year.
Oh, yeah. Um, so it's sort of like, you know, if we really wanted birth control, we'd buy condoms. They're more cost effective. Logically, it makes more sense because you're preventing the spread of STDs by taking them. Um, so it's like, the people I've spoken to, I'm not going to bring up statistics in this only because I'm going solely by anecdotal evidence. And I know that's not real evidence, but I know my personal experience. I've known the experiences of other people. And I'm not the only one out there that has to be on this medication. And in the long run, it's probably more cost effective to cover it. And I'll explain why in a second, but if you had a point, you can just discuss it if you will.
Oh no, I completely agree with what you're saying. As long as, well, as you know, I'm a minor-kist libertarian. I don't like the government doing anything more than judiciary, and if possible, that's it.
Yeah.
So I'm liking where you're coming from, where uh, this there shouldn't be a mandate in place to force companies to give out contraceptives and insurance plans. Personally, I think people should be happy to have insurance in general, because I don't got that, half that.
No, that's completely understandable. The problem with insurance, though, is that you're paying a premium, and if something big were to happen to you that they don't cover, then it's sort of like, well, fuck, what's the point of paying this premium? And that happens to a lot of people where they have the insurance and they pay money to be covered only to be denied coverage for certain conditions, and that happens a lot more often than you think it does. A
Probably so.
lot. And that is the biggest problem. If the purpose of an insurance company is to insure your health and to keep you healthy, then by denying coverage, they defeat the purpose of what an insurance company should be.
Yes, sir, they do.
And that's a problem. I don't mind not having universal health care and just having cheap health care as an alternative. I don't mind that. We have given big pharma and, big government way too much power. And, they kind of go hand in hand with one another now. And I think that's what happens when you have anything that's in demand. And people are going to need healthcare. They're going to need it. They're going to have to spend money on it. It's an important thing that they have to have for the rest of their lives or they die.
Very true.
um, so it's sort of like, yes, people should definitely be happy to have insurance. I'm happy to be insured. But the problem is, even if you are insured, if you have certain conditions, you're not going to get coverage. They could just deny you coverage like that. So it's sort of like, it's really only good if you keep yourself as healthy as possible. And even that's not a guarantee. If you get cancer, you're probably going to pay out of your ass for chemo. You're going to pay out of your ass for a lot of things. That's something you can't control. If you
Well,
have other conditions, you're still going to have to pay out of your ass. It's going to happen.
actually, I'm inclined to disagree with this only by one point. Hospitals are the hold the monopoly on healthcare, along with, doctors' offices and physician offices.
Right.
I don't like that. What if somebody knows what they're doing, but did not get their certificate or BA, you know, doctorate simply because their methods were seen as quote unquote unconventional, but they were more effective? Should that person not be allowed to give treatment in their homes for a cheaper price?
Well, that's actually a very good question that you've raised. Um, the only problem with a home, and I used to actually go to a dermatologist who had a home office. Like he worked out of his home and it was a home office. You have to have a certain environment and you're going to have certain regulations in place to make sure everything's sterile. And that's really the only main concern is keeping a hospital environment in a home where, let's say you have kids, you have a dog, you have all this stuff everywhere. It's not going to be a sterile environment. However, if you manage to keep an environment separate from your living space that people can walk into, go for it. Because keep in mind, every time you walk into a hospital, you're dragging things in with you all the time. So, it's sort of not really sterile when you walk in. I mean, you got the guy next to you who's coughing, you have the other guy next to you sneezing, you have the other guy next to you that's got something coming out of his ear. It's like, you want to be able to provide the best environment you can for your patients to make sure that there is less of a chance of spreading infection around. And, you know, and plus if you have it in a home, you might actually be in contact with that all
Have,
day. It depends on your practice, I think. It depends on what you do.
right, like, well, okay. This is probably something most people don't know about me. I'm an aspiring psychologist. I hate psychiatrists because that's like the automatic go-to,
Oh
pills
no,
down the
yeah.
throat. And I would rather, help people in a psychological sense get past their issues before sending them to a psychiatrist, which is a pillar of last resort as far as I'm concerned.
Oh no, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And that's one of my bigger problems. I would actually need my PhD or my master's, no, it's PhD, I think, to be able to give psychological treatment. And I would lose it like that if anybody said that I did not or I messed with them psychologically. It's like, wait, A, why do I need something from the state saying, yes, you may practice psychology, even if I'm more competent than, most psychologists out there, which I'm not saying I am. Keep that in mind. I'm not saying I am, but what if I am? Why should they get higher status than me when I can help more people?
Well, that's another interesting question. Just to bring this up, my GYN actually isn't a doctor. My GYN's a physician's assistant, and
Hmm.
she does a better job than most doctors and makes significantly less money and works in an office. Some crazy shit.
And and people would rather go to her than a doctor, right? Because A, she has
Oh
better.
no, totally. I was recommended to her from my mom, who was recommended to her from someone else, who recommended her from somebody else. So, all over the place.
So basically, the doctors in the hospitals hold this kind of monopoly over the healthcare system when people who could give them maybe even better treatment because, hospitals have you waiting for 10, 20 minutes before they'll see you, and you can go over to somebody's house who'll give you treatment right now at a lower rate.
I think that you should keep the market competitive with cheaper choices and we don't really have that, and that is a problem. I would not mind having cheap healthcare as opposed to universal healthcare. I would not mind that because we have given these pharmaceutical companies and all of these doctors way too much power, and all these hospitals have too much power. It's crazy, right? You give so much power to a hospital, people fucking die in them every day. Like,
Yeah, right?
yeah, they die in them every day. Like, okay.
It's like, obviously they're not working out, but you have to go to them because, well, the government says that's the only people you can go to. It's like, okay, I'm gonna see what this guy's about over here.
Oh no, yeah, and there's some pretty bad hospitals that I have been to.
Oh yeah.
Terrible hospitals. Terrible, terrible hospitals. You have no idea. So I kind of get it. But back to the whole point on birth control, I'm going to explain why it's more cost effective to just fucking cover it in the first place. I'm gonna I'll explain it. Now, keep in mind, I came to this conclusion using common sense.
Careful, this is America.
It's not very common, but I will use it anyway. All right, so keep in mind, and this is from a female point of view, so I know my stuff already. Um, a lot of women, when they have the problems that either I do and they don't have access to the birth control, take off a day or two every month from work. Every month. Just to deal with the cramps. Because the cramps can be pretty bad. Or, they may have heavy monthly bleeding, or they may have something else. And they don't want to have to get up every 10 minutes to change their pad at work. It's like really weird that you get up from your desk every 10 minutes to like change whatever you're using. It's very awkward, and people will pick up on that. So a lot of them just choose to stay home. What this does is decrease productivity in a workplace. I mean, if you're not working, then, you know, you're not working.
Yeah.
And if you're not working, then what are they going to pay you for? And I know it's probably going to be a paid sick day or anything like that, but
You get
you're
those?
still not working. You're still not helping the company produce things, right?
Right.
And keep in mind, if we're going by the logic that it's birth control all the time, and that woman has a kid and has to be on maternal leave, she's got to be on maternity leave to take care of the baby until the baby's big enough. She has to leave her job for several months to like a year or two, come back to a new job, has to take off work every time the kid's sick to take him to the doctor, or if they have like a piano recital or some shit. I mean, think about it. Kids take up a lot of excused work days and a lot of sick days. If you really add it up, it's best that women don't have a lot of kids to begin with at a certain point. in their lives when they're really trying to get their foot in the door and get employed. So I think in the long run, it would probably be more cost effective to just let them have their birth control. Because the days that they're not going to be spent working while they have their period, in conjunction with the days spent not working when they have to take care of family issues, that isn't that adds up over time exponentially. So what you really want to do is you keep women from having kids, and you keep them in your workplace, and you keep them working. And the only other solution to that, the solution to making sure that your employees are at work all the time, is kind of just to rephrase this, just to phrase it better, to make sure that you don't have people that have problems with kids, because technically the mother tends to take time off work, or has problems with their periods, which will only add up more time they're going to be spending off of work, is to just fire all the women. And we have become already integrated enough into the workforce that if you were to lay off every single woman currently in the workforce, and you're left with all of the men, okay, well, you get men to fill in those jobs, right?
Right.
But then you're stuck with one income households, which in today's day and age aren't sufficient enough to keep a family 9 times out of 10.
This is true.
So not only have, unless, they're gay and they're two dudes living with each other.
Well, they can have kids,
Uh,
adopt or
yeah, and if they adopt, but they're still not going to have periods, so they're not going to take time off of work.
my uncle
Um,
is gay. I disagree entirely.
oh wow,
Yeah.
I'm not touching that one. Anyway,
Yeah, smart
um,
idea.
I'm not touching that one. But
I was trying to add a little comedy to the show. Come on now.
I know we need to. This is depressing, but anyway. So it's sort of like, with all the time that women are taking off of work, and you're just gonna be like, well, she's a woman, she's gonna take time off of work, and you fire all the women, you're stuck back to one income households. And when you're stuck back to one income households, they can't feed themselves.
The
I
economy
mean, the
suffers.
solution could be to give the guys a raise, right? But the thing is, since you have less employees in, you are going to pay them more money for less productivity. So that doesn't make sense either, right?
Right.
So just give them the damn birth control. It's more cost effective. Just 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 give it to them. And you know what? Since a lot of women aren't even on it, because not everyone has the problems that I do, have a woman be able to file for birth control coverage with her employer. That way the employer doesn't have to like shell out money for every single woman like she needs the birth control. Don't give the coverage to women that don't need the coverage. Then you can weed out the women that do from the women that don't, and you don't have to cover their pills.
Very true. There was a study done that got us down to the 40-hour work week that showed that workers worked optimally from 8-hour work days. Anything past that was just not worth it to the employer. That's when the government, mandated 40-hour work week. Any time past that was overtime. But employees saw enough studies to convince them, yeah, we're only losing money if we keep them here for more than 40 hours a week. So I think the same concept applies to what you're saying.
Yeah. So you can't fire all the women, because let's face it, those guys aren't going to get pay raises for doing less work, or rather being tasked with more work when there's less people around. I mean, you can give them a raise. You can give them a raise because there's less people around, there's less competition, less people willing to work on the cheap. So technically you can give these people raises, but there's still one person, and they're still not going to be able to perform tasks that many people can do at once.
Very true.
So, it just makes more sense economically to just cover it. So our asses are in work more often. There you go.
Yeah, I like that. You were gonna discuss the war on women.
Yeah. Since I'm female, I would be able to give you a perspective of it. I feel we have been lied to, and by both sides, actually. The side that says that there is a war on women, which I agree with because I definitely believe that there is, and I'll get to that in a second. And then you're getting lied to by the side that says there isn't a war on women. Both sides still have their own agendas that they want to push. I wouldn't trust either one of them. However, I think it's bullshit that you have a whole panel on women's health and coverage saying that you should deny coverage, but you don't have a single woman there present. That is insulting because now you're making decisions about the health of one gender and you don't have a single member of
Said
that
gender.
gender on that panel. You don't have a single one. Nothing. You don't have anything.
Mm, very true. As much as I prefer the government to stay out of it anyway, if they're going to get involved, I'd rather they be educated in the matter.
Oh no, yeah, of course. I really think that they should be. Um, and this is an issue. This is definitely an issue. Not everyone that was on that panel was a qualified OBGYN
I don't think any of
that
them were.
actually knew women's health. And there was no counter side to anything to properly play devil's advocate to see which side was in the right and which was not. You had nothing there. It was literally a panel of a whole bunch of dudes making decisions about women's health that don't even affect them. So I believe that is a little bit insulting. You don't have a panel on women's health and then not have a woman present.
Yeah, that is a bit insulting.
That's like me holding a panel on vasectomies and how every man should just get a vasectomy and have the snip, and I won't invite a single guy to that panel. It'll just be me and a whole bunch of women that got knocked up a bunch of times. And we're all going to be like, hey, you know what we should do? We should go and force all the men to get vasectomies. Okay, great.
I think you might want to clarify that you weren't knocked up a whole bunch of times.
Oh, no, no, no. I haven't even been knocked up once, so I think we're good here.
Yeah, it's just the comments. I can see them.
Oh, no, I can see them coming from a mile away, too. Um, so it's crazy. If that wouldn't fly with a whole bunch of women making decisions about men's health and men's contraception, then I would make sure that women have a say in everything. I mean, you already know what they're going to say before they say it. But to me, what matters is what makes the better point. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
what makes the better point. It's not necessarily who's right and who's wrong, but who makes the better point. And if these guys don't have a point, then why are we listening to these guys? These guys don't have a credible, you know. I mean,
Standpoint, point of view.
yeah, like they don't have a credible standpoint. And some people may say they do, and I can say why they say that. But and if we're going to expand on this even more so, if they say that we should be able to deny it on the basis of religious belief, right?
Right.
On the basis of religious belief, I am going to just incite some controversy here, which will probably be good for
Yep,
this show.
because I'm going to play devil's advocate on this one.
Yeah, go right ahead. Um, if we have a whole bunch of CEOs that are totally going to deny it, they're going to deny it. They're going to deny it on the basis of their so-called religious beliefs. Like they believe in the Abrahamic religions, such as, including but not limited to, Christianity. And the Christian right really does not want women to have birth control. So, of course, you know, the vast majority of CEOs are going to be like, well, we're evangelicals. We are evangelical employers. Our women aren't going to have birth control. Or we're Catholic employers. We don't want women to have birth control. When in reality, if you have enough money in your pocket to own a business, then I hate to say this, but you kind of already broke the rules of Christianity
Yeah,
by not giving up everything that you own, which is what Jesus himself has preached.
yeah, and I do understand where you're coming from, but by the same token, if they're basing their insurance policies off of their religion, then I think they do have more than a right to say we don't want to give the contraceptives to our employees because we are Catholic and we do not believe that babies should be stopped from being born. And I think that's
Oh, no,
their
no,
right
no,
to
that's
refuse.
completely understandable if it's a Catholic or Jewish organization. Like, for example, if I were to work for Maimonides Hospital, right?
Right.
I can't expect them, if they're a Jewish hospital, to give me coverage. It just wouldn't make sense to me. I would not get coverage. If I worked for a Catholic hospital and expected coverage, I would be freaking stupid.
Yeah.
Because if it's a Catholic hospital, why are they going to cover my birth control? If one of the main tenets of Catholicism is that there is no such thing as contraception and you shouldn't use it. If I'm working for an organization that's religious in nature, there is kind of no reason why I should ask for it. If I'm working for a secular organization and he wants to deny me coverage, then that's kind of BS. But if I'm in a Catholic setting or I'm in a very Jewish or Muslim setting, I can't be surprised they're not going to give me coverage. Because I already know off the bat that I'm not going to get it. Because they don't agree with me having coverage on the basis of religion. There you go. It's as simple as that.
They don't want to produce the contraceptives because of their religion.
No, yeah. I honestly think though if it's a health thing, they should just give it to you because then it's not a birth control or it's not contraceptive at that point, it's medicine. But you should be able to provide proof of that before you appeal that. You can't just provide it all willy-nilly if that's the kind of organization you're working for. And I do understand that. And I would not force those people to pay for my pills every month. So good, I won't work for you fucking guys. Bye.
Now you see, where was this when Sandra Fluke was talking to Congress?
I I don't know. I really don't know. By the way, Georgetown is a Catholic university. Of course, they're not going to want to help you out with birth control.
Yeah, I, I
You know.
I don't get it, but you know what? It's Congress. They're the stupidest people in America. Why are they in office?
Well, I actually think they're the smartest people in America. And the reason why they're the smartest people in America is because they kept all the stupidest people in America stupid.
Very true.
They kept you stupid. They kept you in the dark. And we don't get the full story. We never do.
Not unless you're,
Never do.
yes. Well, unless you're part of the Liberty movement and you're checking out all kinds of alternate media. Like you found that 12-year-old explaining economics.
Oh, yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah, you won't see that on Fox News, I promise you.
No, you won't. We have so many things that, because I, I'm just going to be frank. I know a guy that works for a major news network. Because keep in mind, I live in New York, so I am near where everything is being produced and broadcasted. I'm all over the place. And I know a guy that works for one of the top major news stations in America. You would be shocked at the things that don't get released to public knowledge on national television in terms of the news. There is no such thing as journalism anymore. There truly is not.
Ben Swan, reality check. I contest that notion.
Oh
Okay.
no, yeah. Yeah, there is no journalism in any of the major networks anymore. There really isn't. And this is an unrelated note, but I really wish that Jon Stewart would just come out as a political commentator because that's totally what he is now. He's not a satirist, he's a political commentator and he should just own up to it already.
He should.
Own up to your shit, please. because you're not fooling anybody. We know. We know you lean left, and we know that's what you're commentating on everything with a leftist slant. You're a political commentator. Stop it. Anyway,
Oh,
just to get that out there, because that's been bothering me all week. Oh God.
well, John Stewart, if you heard that, then Lillylivers want you to stop it. Just
Yeah, stop it.
stop that.
Stop that right now.
Okay. Well, you also said that you did not fully agree, or you went somewhat against the libertarian standpoint on a few things. What were those? Crossfire.
Um. All right. Well, I I do enjoy the freedom that the libertarian movement does have close to their heart. Like they really want freedom. They just want personal freedom. I'm like, you know what? That I like that. I'm for that. But I honestly think that some things should be controlled by the government and some things should not be controlled by the government.
Social and economic freedom.
Yes, I feel that prisons are definitely something that should not be under corporate control because now all we're really doing is imprisoning people for nonviolent crimes for the sake of putting them in there so that judges get kickbacks and people make more money. I'm very against the prison economy because what that does is it turns America into a prison state.
25% of the world's prison population.
Oh, yes, definitely. It turns America into a complete prison state where we convict people of the stupidest things. We really do. We convict people of the stupidest things. But, you know, the people on Wall Street that committed fraud are pretty much running scot free. Whereas, you know, a kid that smoked pot once in his life and got caught with it is going to be in jail for a little while.
And then
You
third
know,
time, he's in there for life.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like really ridiculous. There should not be an economy based on anything other than the building of prisons. If you're going to have a prison economy, build prisons. And that should just be an offshoot of architecture when you really think about it.
Hmm?
Because you still have to get people to design these things. That can't be the only thing they design. They can't only design prisons. You know, I I feel that when you have corporate interests involved in something um, that involves law, then that's how a lot of things get skewed in government. And we really should not privatize prisons. We
Mm,
really, that's the one thing I really think should not be privatized. The one thing. Because then some asshole with more money than you will put you in prison so he makes more money. Even though you didn't
mm,
really do anything. Then a whole bunch of laws get passed basically stating, well, you can't do this and you can't do that, which, you know, it's very vague. But let's say, just for the sake of argument, you can't hop on one leg while patting your head and rubbing your belly all at the same time anymore because you get thrown in prison. Like, that's the level of absurdity the legislation that will get passed is going to end up like if you continue to have a prison economy based on the imprisonment of people. I am very much for freedom, and I believe that if we are to be for freedom, then we cannot hand imprisonment to corporate interests.
well, I'm with you, but either make judiciary and arbitrary uh, duties to complete private sector or to complete government. Because when you have money,
And thrown at government? Oh, definitely.
yeah, when you have money thrown at a prison system, they're just going to want to get more prisoners, and that just, I mean, when you have when you have an entity of infinite money, okay, not infinite, but a great amount to the point where they just keep printing more like the government, throwing money at prisons, the more inmates they get. I mean, the only logical conclusion to draw from that is we need more money, we need more prisoners. Hmm.
No, exactly. And then the judges get kickbacks. And we have all of these people in jail for nonviolent crimes that weren't impeding on the freedoms of anybody else. And that's a problem. Now you're enslaving people for corporate interests, and that should not be going on. I value personal freedom too much to place the judiciary in the hands of corporate interests. And if the government is tied to that already, we can't have any hope in our government. And that's another issue. Um, I will never understand an Occupy Wall Street protester that says that the solution to everything going on in terms of the judiciary and people in corporations throwing money at it to get certain things passed so they make more money but screw over everybody else. The solution to that is not more government. Because if you have more government, then they already have the corporate money and the corporate power to pass whatever is thrown at them, proposed by special interest groups and corporations, which can be seen as a special interest group of their own. So the solution is not more government, because if you give the government more power when they already have so much money thrown at it, it's not a good recipe for anything. If anything, since government and corporate interests are one and the same, the solution is probably less government.
Less power the government has, the less power that the corporate cartel
Yeah,
has to use them as influence, use their
yeah,
influence.
definitely. We
No,
have way too big government in certain places, and we completely neglect other things, like the judiciary.
very true. Now, actually, I want to tell everyone a story. I don't know how many people know this, and I'm probably going to regret saying it, but I was one of the first people at Occupy Wall Street here in Colorado Springs. Now, all of us who showed up were libertarians. It wasn't about universal health care. It wasn't about, uh, where's my bailout? It was about, they got bailed out, we got sold out. It was looking at the government, and it was bringing up the Housing Act that Clinton passed. And, well, to be frank, the liberals showed up, and the libertarians had to go to work.
Oh no, yeah.
And that's what happened there.
Well, I wouldn't regret being part of that. I really would not, because feared everyone feared that had corporate interests. They were afraid of Occupy Wall Street, okay? They were freaking afraid of it because it got so much support. And that's why it got stomped out so quickly, because they threw enough money at these people for more security to break up all of these protests, because they're afraid of them. They are deathly afraid of protesters. You have no idea. They are so afraid of people on Occupy Wall Street, and people like you and me that simply just don't agree with the government and want to be loud about it, because they know eventually, once enough people realize, wait a minute, this is gaining momentum, the only politicians we are going to elect are the ones that aren't corporatists, then all the corporatists are going to start shitting their pants, and they're going to be like, oh god, then what are we going to do? They fear people on Occupy Wall Street. They're afraid of them. And I don't even know why. They're just a bunch of hippies. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a bunch of hippies, and there's nothing wrong with liking the idea of personal freedom, um, or disliking the idea of corporatism and government trumping the interests of the majority. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I don't even think there's a problem with protesting. The question is, never, why would you ever lose sight of what you're truly fighting for? And I think the problem with this movement was that everybody lost sight of it.
Well, the one of the bigger problems was we started out as a democracy. I tried to crush that right now because I could see problems with it right there. I tried to have a constitution written up, if you will, that stated we would just focus on the government's bad spending. Pretty much go Tea Party on it, what it was originally about. And yeah, that didn't go well. People wanted $20 minimum wage, people wanted free health care, and it's just like, no, I'm not part of this. This is not what I'm about.
Well, I don't mind free healthcare, but I think that cheap healthcare is just as good of an alternative if you bring the prices down low enough.
Yeah, and how
And
do you
I
do
think
that?
that if you provide a service, you should be paid for it.
Yes. And how do you do that? Competition.
Yeah, it's just that they stomp out competition.
Competition.
They're afraid of it.
Yeah.
Um, I think I have to end it here because I have things to do. But again, I just want to reiterate the solution to corporatism in government is not giving government more power. Because if you give government more power, it'll only succumb to more corporatism. So if that's what your issue is, don't give the government more power.
All right.
Don't do it. Don't have a centralized federal government with the power that it currently has now.
And growing.
Oh yes, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you for being on, Lily.
Oh, well, you're very welcome, and it was a pleasure for you to have me.
All right, everybody. I'm Daxon Islander. Any last words?
No, not really.
All right. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.